This is the bottom line with Boney Mua.
Presidential elections in Cameroon have been slated for October 2025. In the run-up to these elections, we begin interviews of political actors and stakeholders involved in these elections. Today, we begin by profiling the flag bearer of the Social Democratic Front, Joshua Osih. Mr. Chairman, you are welcome to the program. Mr. Chairman, congratulations for being elected as the flag bearer of the Social Democratic Front for the upcoming elections.
Thank you very much for your congratulations.
And welcome to the bottom line with me, Boney Mua.
Thank you. Thank you, Boney, and thank you for having me. And I would like to greet all your viewers as well.
Thank you very much. The truth be told, Mr. Chairman, when we look at the elections, it was like a one-horse race. I mean, you were just alone amongst the so many. People could not run. I mean, you were just the one person to run for the election.
One of my teachers in CPC, he always told me that when a Cameroonian starts with the truth be told, then just know that he's not truthful. Because you don't need to say that if you're saying, no, the constitution of the party is there since 1990, 35 years now. That document exists, and all those who are members in the party, they know exactly what has to be done to be the flag bearer of the party. And when you are in a situation, well, you know, the other thing is that we just had our ordinary convention a couple of months before that. And so the entire national executive was still fresh. So it is just obvious that if you just won such an election, that the next one will tend to go the same way.
Yes, and the price tag of 50 million francs, people are thinking that it's a prohibitive move, forbidding other candidates to run for the elections.
Mr. Well, first of all, there's never been a price, okay? So, you know, every word you use in politics has its weight. We never tag the price on anything. So there was a caution that was being asked to go into the presidential election. There was a very high caution for the post of chairman of the party, which was 7 million francs. And I guess 3 or more candidates dropped that amount. They had no problem with it. You have to understand that to become a presidential candidate in Cameroon, the caution is 30 million francs. It's not much. It's a lot of money for a Cameroonian, but not much. And nobody asks you in politics to go and sell your plot to come and pay your caution. What we need to understand in an organization, in a serious organization like the SDF, is do you have the capacity to raise those funds? If you cannot raise 30 million francs, then how can you raise the funds necessary or required for a presidential campaign? I will tell you that right now, campaigns haven't started yet, but my campaign has spent in excess of 10 times that amount already. Just to talk to you here, I had to pay a flight ticket to come here. I had to reorganize my program and everything. All of those have costs, and the costs are extremely high. That's unfortunately where the multi-party democracy has taken us today, and we have to bear with it. So if you want to be the flag bearer of the Social Democratic Front, you need to understand that you need to have the capacity to raise those funds, and that's what it is all about. Nobody has asked anybody to pay personally. You are not presidential candidate on your own. You are part of a team. So what the party is asking that team to do is to show us that they have the capacity to raise funds to get there. The second thing you have to understand is that a convention costs anything, a short convention like an extraordinary convention, which is a one-point convention, it's about 150 to 250 million CFA. Okay, so if we have to go into a short-form convention to entertain opportunists, then we are wasting the taxpayers' money, and we are wasting the membership fee of our members. We need to be serious about that. So if someone on serious is presenting himself to be president of the republic, that's why we ask for certain qualifications, and those qualifications were on 8 pages. It was produced by the Secretary General or Secretariat General, and I abided to them. So that one caution was just one of there were much more stringent dispositions. For instance, I'm very sure that would have had more candidates if every other disposition was waived. For instance, you needed to have a tax certificate. And I know that many people have difficulties paying their taxes or being up to date with their taxes. You needed to show all the other documentation that is requested from you as a presidential candidate. Don't you think it's a serious party that makes sure that the candidate chosen by a convention, 2,800 people coming from all over Cameroon, that candidate has the capacity to respond to all the requirements asked for by the law? That's just what we did.
And the money goes into the coffers of the party?
Well, that's none of your business. Yes, it goes into the coffers of the party.
No, people just need to know that at the end of the day, it's making the party grow because it's part of the party moving ahead.
No, it's a caution it's a non-refundable caution that is given to the party, yes. Yes. Just as is the case during the ordinary convention for positions in the National Executive Committee, each and every candidate puts in a non-refundable caution, and the caution for chairman of the party was 7 million francs, and you had 3 candidates.
Yes, and after the General Assembly, extraordinary General Assembly of your party, you came up with 5 steps to rescue Cameroon.
We did not have a General Assembly, we had an extraordinary convention.
Extraordinary convention, you came up with 5 steps to rescue Cameroon. In a nutshell, can you put those steps for Cameroonians to understand? The 5 steps to rescue Cameroon.
Well, Mr. Mua, I see that you were not with us in Yaoundé because we did not put up 5 steps to rescue Cameroon. We presented the program, or a nutshell of the program that will be presented to the Cameroonian public next week. And this program is based on the values of the Social Democratic Front and the qualities of the Social Democratic Front. And after an in-depth work going around the country nearly twice, doing opinion polls, talking to Cameroonians of all forms of life, and especially listening to Cameroonians. And we came out with a very, very progressive program for 2025 and 2026. Remember, we also have in 2026 legislative and municipal elections. And so this program encompasses all of that. We said we are going to present the program on the presidential election side. We're going to present it because many people ask us, when will you do this or when will we do that? So we said we're going to present the 5 phases in which the program will be unrolled. So we have the first phase, and the phases are not concomitant. The phases will be going together. So it's not one phase first, then phase 2, then phase 3. All the 5 phases are launched on the first day, but there is a phase that takes 7 years, a phase that takes 3 years, another one that takes 1 year, another one that takes just 100 days. So the very first phase is the one that takes 24 hours from the swearing in to the next. For the next 24 hours, immediate executive orders that will be taken in, measures to change the paradigm of where the country sits right now. And you'll agree with me that we can only do those for measures that can be changed with executive orders. We cannot summon parliament within 24 hours and get any results and new laws. So that's our focus at that end. For instance, the drastic reduction of the size of government is an executive order. The declaration of assets is an executive order. So all of that will be done the first day. Then the second phase is what we say and it goes very deep in us, is to stop the violence in the northwest and the southwest within the first 100 days. Yes, that's a very important
point. We'll come back on that very extensively.
The third point, or to restore the people of the Grand North, that is the far north, north and Adamawa regions, into their dignity, because they're paying a very high price for a 1984 coup, a coup in which they did not participate. And when you see what is going there, you understand that it is done by purpose by the regime in Yaoundé. And the next point is that we are going to reform the institutions of the state. We have to do that. And we propose, or we want to have a national conversation for the first 3 years. This conversation will start with a national reconciliation exercise and will end with a constitutional conference, which will table a new constitution for Cameroon by way of a referendum to the Cameroonian people for its adoption. We will leave no stone unturned to make sure that this constitution is federal and semi-presidential. That is our DNA. And so we give ourselves the first 3 years to get there so that we have a real new social contract with the Cameroonian people, one in which all Cameroonians from Cameroon, from all fields of life, and even from the diaspora have participated in drafting and putting up. And so that after the constitutional referendum, we have 4 years left in our mandate to implement it. We think 4 years is more than enough to make sure everything or every disposition in that new constitution is applied and is effective on the field. And finally, we have a 7-year mandate, and during those 7 years, we'll commit ourselves for the socio-economic transformation of our nation. So that's the way it's presented, and that socio-economic transformation is outlined in 9 separate chapters, that is education, health, economy, the fight against inequalities, arts and culture, and so on. Yeah.
Yes, and there's also the 16 breakthrough measures in the first 100 days. Is there not an overlapping with the 5 measures and this? I mean, are they different, or they still tie in line with what?
I'll just come back to that. We don't have 16 breakthrough measures. We talked about 16 of them during the convention, but there are many more than those. We have our breakthrough measures that are being taken on the first day. We're taking care to stop the violence in the northwest and southwest in the first 100 days. And I repeat, stop the violence. We're going to work on some sort of a Marshall Plan for the 3 regions in the north within the first year. We're going to work to make sure we have a national conversation going on that ends up with a referendum in the first 3 years and implement that referendum in the 4 years that follow. And we're going to have a 7-year period in which we're going to effectively transform the socio-economy of our country. So there is nothing overlapping.
And then there is also some people who say that you are not doing enough to reconcile members of the party, the G27. Many people.
I stop you right away. I am the chairman of the SDF. I'm not the chairman of former members. I'm not the chairman of dismissed members. I'm not the chairman of non-members. My role is to take care, and it's already a huge responsibility, is to take care of the members, of the paid up members, the actual members who exist. I'm not around running after ghosts or running after the history of the party. I am working for the future of this party. I'm working for the future of Cameroon.
Yes, and you just said a few minutes ago that you have you have traveled almost around the country twice, but it is like
much more than twice. We did it for the sake of building up the program and succeeding with our 2 conventions. But I've been around this country. I don't have enough fingers to count.
Yes, and most people say charity begins at home. I mean, when they say beginning at home, when you look at the northwest and the southwest, or the southwest, especially Mundemba, which is supposed to be like your base, people don't see you often going there.
Boney Mua, that's the problem with Cameroon, and that's the problem with you. You are a problem. You know why you're a problem? Because you reduce Cameroonians to where they come from, instead of pushing Cameroonians to make them bigger than this country. I'm working for Cameroon. I have an origin, okay? I am a chief in that village. So I wasn't made a chief in absentia. We are supposed to concentrate on our nation, okay? Boney Mua is supposed to be a Cameroonian, not from the northwest, not from Menchum. He's supposed to be a Cameroonian from all over Cameroon, and in the entire national territory. You should be at home. Stop sending people back to their villages. Send them to conquer the world. That is where we are. We are in 2025. You should be at ease with where you come from, but you should go out to conquer the stars. And if you miss the moon, you fall somewhere else. But stop this habit of believing that someone is only fixed to where his great-grandfather came from. Guess what? If you start looking at people's origins, in 2025 you have many people like me who have multiple origins, even within Cameroon. Multiple. If you are not chanced to be one of them, too many people around me are, who will have to go to 5, 6, 10 different places to satisfy everybody. So you cannot do that. But what we want is nation building, not village building, nation building.
Yes, and then the other things that people want to see more from you is maybe organizing.
What you want to see more? You are not the spokesperson. You haven't been elected.
I've talked to some people and they're saying that they don't see Joshua Osih doing rallies.
Boney,
like
dear Boney, say what you want to say. You are not. You haven't been elected by anybody to come and speak on their behalf. You are here as a renowned journalist. So talk about yourself and say, Josh, I would like to see you more in rallies. Then we can start talking. Don't tell me people want to.
Okay, as a journalist,
yes,
my observation is that I don't see you organizing rallies in the different places that you go. You meet people, you talk with them.
Then you are stuck somewhere in 1990. You should change your software, because I can tell you that just last year alone, we organized nearly 68 town hall meetings with more than 250 to 400 people at each town hall. You have to know that people have evolved. Maybe in 1990 you were very excited to be washed down by rain, standing and here listening to Nijon Fundi, and today that's no longer the case. People have evolved. Probably people you don't wine and dine with because they're much younger than you are. They have other expectations. So that's why we meet them. What you are doing today, I would never have done it in the days of the big rallies because I didn't need this. Right now, this is a rally. What we are doing is what was a rally in 1990. So you just have to change your software and you'll see that.
That's a good one. That's a good one. And Mr. Chairman, let's go straight into the fact. I mean, there is the problem of the ongoing crisis in the Northwest and Southwest. The present government tend to mix it with the one in the far north. How are you going? What are you going to do differently? Or do you put the three crises, that far north, the Northwest and Southwest, in the same basket? What are you going to do differently?
Well, first of all, there is a problem with all 10 regions in Cameroon. Okay, and there is a problem with our national unity, and the problem we have in Cameroon is one of leadership. There is no problem in Bamenda. There is no problem in Buea. The problem is in Etudi. The problem is in Yaoundé. Okay, and why am I a candidate? Because I'm convinced that that problem can be solved. And I just told you, just the violence can be solved in 100 days, and the institutional dispositions to make sure that the English-speaking Cameroonians or those of that extraction get back, they come out of this marginalization and get back into the concert of our nation through the main door. And that can only happen through new institutional dispositions that need to be discussed. We cannot impose it on anybody. That's not the way it works. We need to talk, we need to convince, we need to move on. And we've said, we want 100 days to stop the violence, and we know how to do it. And we want 3 years to convince 30 million Cameroonians that the power must come back to the people. Guess what? Cameroonians, we've been preaching federalism for 30 years. But unfortunately, those who are supposed to be the torchlight of the federal campaign have some sort, maybe because of nostalgia, and you know, history is always written by the victors. Maybe that's why they have some sort of a misunderstanding of what the entire federal concept is. The federal concept is about what Nee John Frundi termed on the 26th of May, soul rest in peace, thank you. I got a bit emotional. What he termed power to the people. There is no better way to put it. It's to take down the entire power structure in our nation and give it back to where it belongs, the people. And how do you do that? With a federal dispensation. When you bring down power to the people, we say today Cameroon is organized on a three-tier level. Okay? And so in a federal dispensation, it is not about geography. People turn to, as soon as you cross the Mungo, they say how many states. Whether we are 100 states or 2 states, doesn't matter. What matters is where the money goes to, where the competencies are, and who pays what. If you are the strongest state in the world and you pay 99% of the country, and you pay 99% of tax, then you have still lost. If you are the smallest state or the smallest region in the country and you receive 99% of all tax, then you have won everything. So the whole idea is to have what we call federal equalization, and that should be rooted in the Constitution. And so coming back to my explanation, it's all about money. So as we are already a three-tier nation, we can keep it that way. There is no quarrel with that. But all the money of the state must go down to the councils. Period. And then you have a principle of subsidiarity, meaning that what we call today the regions will only handle what a council cannot handle. Anything a council can handle is prohibited to be touched by the region. And only what the regions cannot do will be left with Yaoundé. And you will see that it will solve all our problems, because development comes back to the base. And whether you are from Benakuma Council or you are from Toko Council or you are from which council, doesn't matter again, because the federal equalization in the Constitution makes sure that each of these councils has its fair share according to the development needs, according to the size, according to the population, according to all the parameters you put in that federal equalization. They will have, each and every one will have its fair share. And when it doesn't work, you kick out the mayor, you get the next one. You don't need to worry about who is in Yaoundé. All these furs about who is president of the republic is because our peatland trees depend, I'm sorry to use that, depend on the president of the republic. But it shouldn't be that way. So look at what Trump is doing in America in a federal dispensation. Have you ever heard him talking about Missouri or Kansas or so on? He talks about Iraq, and that's what a president does. And so in a federal, take for instance education. Just to give an example, you can talk about any infrastructure, health. Let's take education. Could you explain to me how come 30 million Cameroonians can still accept that the fate or the employment or the posting of a nursery school teacher in Bokwango or in Tiko or in Wum or in Kumbu is done by a minister sitting in Yaoundé who doesn't even know these places? Not to talk of even the person he's appointing. They don't know each other. That needs to come back to the council. There is absolutely no reason today why the councils, the mayors cannot take care, we cannot transfer the entire competencies and money for them to take care of the entire educational system up to upper sixth. And because you and I will certainly agree that Cameroon cannot live with 360, because we have 360 councils, that we cannot live with 360 universities, we say, okay, higher education is in the hands of the regions, or what we call the regions. You can call them state, province, whatever you want. That's not my business. We say the money for higher education is handled by the regions. And if the University of Buea and then University of Kumba is opened by the region, and then University of Mamfe, and these three universities become the best universities in Cameroon, you will know that the regional authorities that have been elected in the southwest are amongst the best in the country. And they'll keep their mandate. And what is left in Yaoundé, you will ask me, but everything that the region cannot do on its own. The national curriculum, the GCE board, the school manuals, the pedagogic inspection to make sure that each region and each council area is at par, and so on and so forth. The academic calendar, all those issues are in Yaoundé. So Yaoundé doesn't need to take care about recruiting, building, posting, and all of that of a teacher. That will be done locally. And they should have all the means of doing it. And you see that once we have that organization, you'll no longer worry about boundaries. You'll start worrying about where the money is coming from and where it is going to. Because that's the essence. All the elites pushing us into hating each other or dragging ropes, it's because they want to profit from the money in Yaoundé. But we could do that a simple way. Send the money down to the people. And you now have to do something to merit being their representative and being paid. So you inverse the whole thing happening today. And that is what we are preaching out there. That is what we want to do. And that is what we'll do.
Yes, you see that everything evolves around money, and which brings about this issue of corruption. Corruption is describing Cameroon as endemic and systemic. How do you intend to tackle corruption? Because we talk about money. They don't want to leave they don't want to give monies to the councils. They don't want to give monies to the regions. Everything is centralized in Yaoundé.
You're talking of two things. You're talking of centralism and you're talking of corruption. They're two different things. I am against centralization,
yes.
And I've just told you.
Yes, centralization and corruption, they go side by side.
They don't go side by side. One ushers in the other. They don't go side by side. Don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. The centralization is a cancer. Corruption is a cancer. They are two different cancers. They don't go side by side. You can have both.
Okay, corruption. How do you intend to tackle corruption?
Well, first of all, you have to have no-nonsense policy with corruption. But the first thing is that today in Cameroon, every day you hear Mr. A, Mr. B, Mr. C, or Madam Y, Madam X has stolen money, has embezzled, has been corrupt. You understand that police people here are corrupt, there are corrupt, and so on and so forth. It's because there's no accountability. So if you do not, it's like the whole quarter or the whole village every second day walks into your bedroom and steals something, and you keep on complaining that the whole village are thieves. The problem is your lock. Change your lock and maybe they will not be able to get in. So you need to change the system. You need to work on that. If you have leakages, work on the leaks. And that is the problem we have today. For time immemorial, if I may use that expression, but from the beginning of when the Social Democratic Front told the government of Cameroon in 97 in Parliament that Cameroon is a corrupt nation, at the end of the year, Paul Biya said, bring me the proof. Okay, we brought the proof and we tabled it. The first minister went to jail. Today, and the entire government is in jail. We are, the SDF, are not happy about that. Because our objective was not to put people in jail. Our objective was for the theft to stop. And it hasn't stopped. Because Mr. Biya has used that situation today to settle his political scores, rather than using it to clean up the country. How do you clean up a country? Yes, of course, if somebody has stolen, he must go to jail. That is a fact. But when he goes to jail and you don't change the lock, you still have the very problem. So you need to work on that. And that's where the solution comes from. But guess what? Why is corruption so rampant as well? Because we don't have a level of accountability that is strong. The strongest level of accountability are the people. And the population of Buea cannot hold accountable an administrator in Yokwaduma and vice versa. Okay? So how do you settle that issue? Once again, with federalism. Correct. Because when the money of Buea is in Buea, they see, the people see. Today, if somebody takes money to go and build a road in Toko, in Jan Division, where I come from, there is no network, no electricity. Nobody knows there that somebody has taken money. Everybody in Buea knows that that company has taken 600 million to go and build the road. The people who are supposed to receive the road are not even aware. So if the guy doesn't do the road, they will never know. They cannot hold him accountable. You understand? Only those in Buea, they saw it in newspapers and on TV and on the tender boards and all that road has been given out. The benefactors haven't seen. So it doesn't work that way. The way it's supposed to work is that the money for that road is supposed to be in Toko and given there. And the contractor is supposed to come there and win his bid and do the road for the people. And the people can go and stand next to the caterpillars as they are working and watch whether he's doing the right job or not and correct him. And that's why I say the strongest level of accountability is with the people. And as long as you don't give power to the people, you will not have that accountability and corruption will continue.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman,
there are other points, excuse me, on corruption that are in the program and deep to my heart. For instance, raising the salaries of civil servants, doubling the salaries of the personnel in the health sector, public health sector, and the public educational system. It's big time that happens. It's just a measure of social justice. People should not be in precarity while they are working 40 hours a week. That as well needs to stop. Increasing the minimum wage up to something livable. Today, you will agree with me that it is impossible in whatever part of this country to raise a family of 2 children, only 2 children, with 30,000 CFA months. It's impossible.
43,600, yes.
Well, so it's impossible. So we need to come back to our humanity and agree with ourselves that we cannot tolerate things to be legal that actually kill Cameroonians.
Yes, and you recently too, you were overheard in one of your outings that if you came to power...
When I come to power, there is no if.
Yeah, when you come to power, the National School of Administration, ENAM,
yes,
has no place because most of the people who are from ENAM, they are in jail today. So that institution maybe might be closed.
Mr. Mua, you are on the side of, I would permit me say this, it's not against you, on populism, and you are on the side of emotions and you're talking people. I don't talk people, I talk issues. It's not because 1, 2 or all of those coming out of ENAM are in jail that ENAM is a bad thing. ENAM is a bad thing because it's a colonial heritage. ENAM is a bad thing because France never built that school in Yaoundé to help Cameroonians. It built that school in Yaoundé to bring Cameroonians down. And so this school trains magistrates, trains administrators, trains some other civil servants, and in every part, in every sector, in which those people function, you realize that there are the sectors that do not function. Just take our magistracy. There is a problem. And it comes from a fundamental flaw we have in our higher educational system, in which we select at the entrance and not at the exit. In every normal dispensation in the world,
correct,
selection is at the exit and not at the entrance. Everybody can enter, but not everybody can come out. In Cameroon, when you write an exam to become a doctor, let us say there is no corruption. Give it that there is no corruption. They will take the 100 best Cameroonian youth to become doctors. You and I know that 7 years along the line, especially at that age, when you discover love, you discover beer, you discover other friendships, and you live in bigger cities because there are no medical schools in small places. 7 years later, you're not the same person.
Good.
And nothing can tell me that 7 years later, you're still married to be a doctor. Okay? And it's the same all over. And you have a country in development that opens up entrance into the literary and the arts sectors of higher education and the law sectors of higher education and closes it for STEM. Whereas it's supposed to be the opposite. We're supposed to close it for arts and law and open it as wide as possible for the STEM sector. I mean, as a matter of fact, if we're really serious, we're even supposed to admit students into STEM that would not have A-levels. Because that's where the future of the nation is. Today we have 405,000 students in our public universities alone, of which 3/4 are doing arts and law. How can a nation develop with that? I have nothing against arts and law. Nothing. I mean, I admire great poets, but you don't build bridges with poets. I have a big respect for a very good lawyer, a very good judge, and actually I seek advice with them. But when 20, 30, 40% of your workforce in a country has been trained in that sector, you have a problem. And why is our judicial system not working? One of the reasons as well is that you have too many people who think that they know the law. Maybe they know, I don't know, because I don't know. But I just know that too many people quarrel because too many people just believe that they understand the law, because too many people have done law in school.
Yes, still this media outing. I read in some newspapers the other day that you're saying that when you come to power, structures like Eleka Manfeka Food will be independent, purely, totally independent. How are you going to make that?
Well, I don't know why you're mixing the two in the same question, because...
But that's what I read in the papers.
They're two different things. Well, maybe the guy who wrote it mixed it, but you should have dissected it, because I know you. You cannot have... We need to reform our electoral code.
Good.
I will never, ever try to criticize an electoral code during an electoral year, for the simple reason that criticizing it right now would discourage people from going out to vote. An electoral code is only bad as long as a critical mass doesn't come out to vote. Once a critical mass comes out to vote, whatever the electoral code, the results will be. Late Nigel Fundi won the 92 elections without an electoral code, with a multitude of electoral laws that transgress each other, and as a matter of fact, couldn't give a free and fair election. That's why we moved to a code. But he won, because the Cameroonian people came out for change. So if we have a critical mass coming out, the code doesn't matter. Now, it's when you start... You know, it's like in football when you start saying that if that other one scores 2 and the other one loses here, and then we'll pass. When you get to that level, the code becomes very important. So in an electoral year, I fight for the critical mass to come out and say, one of the reasons you should come out is that after the election, we will have the powers to put in place a pure electoral code that will allow each one Cameroonian to have one vote, which is not the case today.
Yes, let's pause for a commercial break, and then we continue with the Chairman Joshua Osih.
Goshen Land City, a cozy way of living at home away from home. A majestic twin tower situated at Limbola, opposite the entrance to Mile 6 Beach Limbe. Beautifully couched between Mount Cameroon and the Atlantic Ocean. We offer various packages: business class lodges with 2 bedrooms, executive apartments with 3 bedrooms, royal attic suites with 2 bedrooms, all provided with luxurious sitting rooms, Porsche bedrooms, well-equipped functional kitchens, exquisite toilets, and sea view verandas, giving you an idea of Equatorial Guinea by night. A standby generator ensuring constant electricity supply, full autonomy and clean running water, Wi-Fi, TV packages, secure parkings, plus laundry, shuttle, and car rental services available. We are ideally suited for couple, family, or group stays. Whether visiting or holidaying in the tourist city of Limbe, Goshen Land City is your best bet. Discover Goshen Land City for its exquisite beauty, and you'll come back for its impeccable services. Contact us at 675-113-244 or 688-358-436.
Welcome back to the program, The Bottom Line, with me, Boney Mua. We are now in the second segment of our interview. Mr. Chairman, there are some people saying that in the present political dispensation, no matter what is done, the incumbent is going to win. So we need to start by changing the electoral law. I'll take, for example, where you come from, the littoral. The littoral, we look at the population and the number of members of parliament from there. You look at the south region, it is not the same. In the south, they have about 11 for a population of 600,000 inhabitants. The littoral, almost about 5 million.
Well, your question is in place, and I would like to tell all those who, I've come to the conclusion that unfortunately, citizenship, patriotism and citizenship is a price. And people who don't want to pay that price, they take funny excuses. They hide behind funny excuses. And they don't understand that those funny excuses, that procrastination, is exactly what keeps the status quo that has brought down this country. I'm sitting here next to you, Bonnie. I'm a member of parliament in Vuri Center.
Yeah.
Vuri Center is the heart of Central Africa. It's the most important constituency for Mr. Biya. It's 71% of all tax in Cameroon. It's nearly 60% of the GDP of Cameroon. Okay? That is, it's the one place that if you are in power, you have to control. I stood elections in 2013 I won against 4 presidential candidates. It is the most complex constituency because election in and election out, we've been having plus minus 17 parties in the race. Because it's milk and honey, Vuri Center. I am from the opposition and I'm able to win. If I can win here, I can beat Biya. Okay? So the electoral code, the democratic dispensations like the constituency gerrymandering and all of that, it exists, and it exists the world over. But how do you change that? By winning an election and coming to change it. The South has 11 MPs for 600,000. Where is the president from?
South.
Okay, give Cameroon, the 4 million people should come out and vote and give Cameroonians a president from Douala. And guess what? I'll give them 30 seats in parliament and your question will be solved. That's the way it works in democracy. You don't sit back in your couch, scroll on the TV or on your phone and expect things to happen. You go out there and vote for those things to happen. There is one thing that I can attest of. I am not aware of any Cameroonian with an ID card who was refused to register to vote. The day that happens, we have a problem. Of the 9 million Cameroonians who have registered so far, I've never heard that somebody was kicked out. Go and register, vote. What you seem not to know or understand, and I'm not trying to lecture you, it's that I came from a scientific background, and so I love figures. When you look at the figures, 1992 to 2020, Mr. Biya and his party they roughly have the same amount of voters year in, year out. 2.4 million. You know what 2.4 million voters means? It means that less than 8% of the population of Cameroon decides on the fate of Cameroon. 96% of parliament, I think, that is the Senate and National Assembly, and 100% of the regions close to, is controlled by 7.8% of the population. Okay? And you sit back and you complain. You have no right to complain if you don't participate, because guess what? The rest of the political parties share between 4%. And all others are not participating. So you have a minority dictating its rule.
On the majority now.
On the majority. Then when this minority has all the milk and honey, people complain. But whom do you want that milk and honey to go to? They have chosen, they have consolidated, and they reap the rewards. And that is what is happening in Cameroon. It has nothing to do with the laws. The SDF has fought for these laws. People have been killed. I buried late Conte in Barikumbat. Okay? People died for what we have. For goodness sake, make use of it. Let's move on.
Yes, let's go on, because we have done some mileage in our interview. I would like you to profile some of the candidates in contention, your own opinion. When you look at...
I'm not allowed to do that.
No, just how...
For instance, for the first thing is that I don't know who is a candidate and who isn't.
Okay.
For the time being, probably Mr. Biya is a natural candidate, although some members of his party do not agree with that, because he didn't hold a convention or a congress, and I have been chosen by a congress.
Yes.
I leave it there. The others still have their congresses and conventions to come.
But there are names that are coming up often, like Cameroon, for example.
Mr. Mua, my political deontology doesn't allow me to be commenting. I can say anything I want on Mr. Biya and his regime, because he's an incumbent and he has a mandate to justify.
Yes, okay. And let's go to the
I cannot
incumbent.
be talking about people who have no mandate to justify, like myself or any other one.
Yes, let's go now to the incumbent. The incumbent will look at him, 93 years and 43 years in power. If you were given the role to advise him, what are you going to tell him?
Well, I would start by saying that experience is a very important factor in leadership, but experience is not based on time, but on the amount of things that you have done over that time. So if you have 43 years in power and you have not done what other presidents did in one mandate of 4 or 5 years, then you are a problem. But if I have to advise him, I would tell him just one thing, is that leadership is measured by the people you groom to continue your legacy. And if you have nobody, it means that you are not a leader.
Yes, and the Catholic Church has been very vocal of late. They came out with the criteria of the person who is supposed to be a leader of Cameroon. How do you fit in that criteria? Talk of somebody who is ready for dialogue, somebody who is mobile, the criteria, how do you fit in that? And do you think that the Catholic Church, that is their role, to come up with the criteria for President of a Republic?
Well, they were not playing a role. They were simply advising the Catholic laity in Cameroon on what they think should be looked at for who should be a candidate. I must admit that I didn't go into the criteria for 2 reasons. I was not addressed. I'm not a Catholic. I'm a Protestant, a Presbyterian, by the way. And the second reason is that I do not want to corrupt my mindset. Because the next thing you see is that you start behaving as the bishops want. And that's the last thing I would like to... I believe if there is one thing late Nijon Fundi taught me, is that never put your authenticity in your pocket. Be yourself. Be what you are. At the end of the day, it rewards. Don't try to please anybody. Be what you are. If what you are cannot make you parliamentary substance, cannot make you chairman substance, cannot make you presidential substance, it will not make you. By cheating, you are simply frustrating yourself and all those who believe in you. So remain authentic. And to remain authentic, you don't have to get, I would say, corrupted by criteria that come from people who do not possibly have the same mindset as you have. Many people came up to me and said, look, we went through all of that. It's exactly about you they're talking. I said, well, the last time I was with some bishops, they were asking me why I'm not going into a coalition. I didn't see that coalition. You talk about that coalition in those points, the criteria. So you see, but anyway, I just avoid. It's just like I don't have a TV at home, just to have a free mindset. Because the day you have a TV at home, the discussion in your home goes around what the TV said and not what your children said.
You just brought up this issue of coalition. Are you not interested in the coalition? I mean, how many parties have come to see Chairman Joshua Osih that we want to endorse you so that we see in you as the person who can carry this country forward?
We have a very strong coalition of labor-minded organizations. We are heading the CALAMO, the Cameroon Labor Movement, made up of 12 of the 13 trade union confederations. We put together like-minded parties. There were about 14 of them. 2 have moved out, so there's still about 12 parties with us. But that is not the real point. You put in place a coalition after an election, not before. Because for me, before it's an alliance. You come into an alliance to go towards an election. I'm talking about the Cameroonian, because people just watch UK TV and American TV and French TV, and they take what happens there and transpose it here. The Cameroonian electoral code is such that what happens before an election can be an alliance and not a coalition, because coalitions are not even authorized by the electoral code. Okay, why am I saying this? Is that you can go into a coalition to form a government, you can go into a coalition to form a majority in parliament, etc. But you can, in the actual state of things in the electoral code, it's extremely difficult to do something else than an alliance before an election. And whatever you call it, alliance or coalition, to come out of the terminology of it, what is important is what comes together, what you are putting together. So if 2 come together and it's 1 minus 1, which is equal to 0, then the little one you have lost it. If 2 come together and it's 1 plus 1 equals to 2, then you have 1. That's what people need to understand. So you cannot request an individual who is handsome on TV and speaks well and has a nice Facebook page to come and sit and get into a coalition with any political party that is present all over Cameroon, that has hundreds of thousands of members, that has won elections, that has won local elections, etc. You see, there is that asymmetry can't be respected. So what basically happens is that you'll sit together with someone, you feel because you see him on TV every day that he's bringing something, but in essence he's removing. What is he removing? If I have my, let me take my team in Kumba, brave team, formidable team. We had 100% in Kumba before this crisis came, and we did not go for the 2020 elections. But what we decided is that we'll work as if we are in power in Kumba. We'll continue working every day for the population in this difficult, especially now, this crisis, so that when the next election comes up, we take back our seats. And that is what is happening right now. So guess what? These guys have been mayors, have been MPs, have been councillors, ground councillors, everything. We had all the councils. And they are working day and night. We have a following Kumba like nowhere else in the country. Okay? Now, just imagine that Joshua Osih sits with someone who appeared into the political scene for the sake of the presidential election to become president.
In a coalition, he enters a coalition with that person.
What message am I sending to Kumba? That all the work you've been doing for 35 years is worth nothing. Good. That your thousands and thousands of followers, that all your potential is worth nothing, because each and every councillor there would tell me that, Mr. Chairman, I'm worth more than that man.
Which is cool.
I bring you 1,000 votes. I bring you 2,000. That man can bring you how many votes? So if you bring me the votes, we're in a good coalition. But again, the votes have to be, the votes have to make sense. Because if I am strong in Douala Center, in Vuri Center, and you are strong in Vuri Center, it doesn't make sense.
Good.
You should be strong in Betwa, and I am strong in Douala, and the two of us come together, then it makes sense. Okay? And the last part, not the least, is that we need to be like-minded. Just imagine what happens to a country if a party that is edged towards the far right, we have them here in our opposition, comes together with a party center-left like the SDF. We will agree on nothing.
Good.
The SDF wants to put on a referendum within 3 years after an open and inclusive discussion, and will fight for that referendum to win so that we have federal dispensation thereafter and semi. And a far-right government wants a centralized state even more than now. That is, they want to scrap the decentralization to take back everything. You know, how can we succeed if we are sitting in the same office? The country will collapse.
Okay, you're talking about votes, bringing about votes. What are you going to do now for these upcoming elections that will make you have a different percentage as compared to the one in 2018? Because,
well, if you really believe that, I'll tell you that here, then you are at the wrong table. Our strategies are not being shared. We are very positive of where we are going.
But you're going to do better than 2018.
I'm going to win this election, sir.
Good.
Okay? There is absolutely, if you have any doubt, then you are sitting in the wrong interview. I am giving you the privilege to talk to the next president of Cameroon. So that's where you are sitting right now. So if you think that I'll win that election with the same scores of 2018, you're absolutely wrong. Because we will need to be about 40 candidates for that to happen. And since we will not be, I will need much more. And we're working for that day in, day out.
Yes, and this one I just need some short responses. What is your opinion about on dual nationality? There are Cameroonians who are clamoring for dual nationality.
I think it's an archaic dispensation. As a matter of fact, it's an ordinance and not even a law. And it came into effect because Mr. Aijo wanted to cut off the UPC leadership from Cameroon. That happened on the 10th of January 1968. We are in 2025, sometime in the month of May. And so it has no place today. And I think just like every other dispensation that needs to be reformed in this country, you should not forget that the person who was Secretary General of the Presidency when that ordinance was signed and who prepared it is called Mr. Bia. And he was at the same time the Director of the Civil Cabinet. So you cannot use somebody who drafted something to undraft it. You need to kick him out for that to be undrafted.
Yes, we have this news that is just evolving. Some 29 Cameroonians from Panama have been deported, apparently under the pressure from the Trump government. Back to Cameroon, they are now at the judicial police. If you were to ask, what's your take on that? 29 out of 3,000 Cameroonians who were based in Panama, deported apparently under the pressure.
I am not privy to the file. I am in charge of a political party. I am a questor of the National Assembly. I have responsibilities that do not permit me to comment on comments. I need to know what we are talking about. I need to go in depth to understand, because each time you open a page, you see something else than what the people try to say. I don't work on populism. So I just want to say one thing, is that if Cameroonians need to cross the Mediterranean swimming and cross the Sahara Desert walking, if Cameroonians need to cross the jungles with pumas and gepards and leopards and everything to walk on foot to go to America, it is a clear sign that Mr. Biya has failed. That's where the problem is. Don't be solving, you're just seeing the small wound and you're trying to make fuzz on it. The problem is that if Cameroonians are going that far to leave this country, it's because they see no hope. And the responsibility of a politician, the responsibility of Joshua Osih, is to recreate that hope. And that's why I'm a candidate, because I love this country and I love those people. And I don't want to see them suffering. That is why I'm a candidate for this election. And so let's not shift the issue. The issue is here. That is the result of the issue. What you're talking about is the result. And what Mr. Trump does in America, it's not my business. He is president of his country. I'll be president of mine. He will have nothing to say inside 3 corners of Cameroon. And I'll have nothing to say inside the United States of America. I hope we'll be friends. I hope we'll be able to be in talking terms. I know that he's not in talking terms with Mr. Biya. That's one of the additional reasons why all of this is happening. Because even when you have a problem, I mean, you need to be able to call the other president and he picks up the phone. If he doesn't pick up the phone, then you are the problem. It's no longer those people. So all that needs to be solved. But let's not shift away from where the problem is. The problem lies within ourselves. We are unable to give a future to the Cameroonian youth. And guess what? My point, I am the only politician who went to the field in the far north, to the front, to touch with Boko Haram, where Boko Haram functions and everything, and I came back alive. Okay, that was in early 2014. I am one of the politicians, this time not the lone one, who has been on the fronts as well in the northwest and the southwest. And there is one thing that people take for granted, that I take as the most important lesson to be taken from what is happening with Boko Haram. I know you don't like when they mix the three, but it's security crisis with Boko Haram, the northwest and the southwest. And that is the simple fact that Mr. Biya makes a blatant mistake, a very serious mistake, when he considers the youth unemployment as a social issue. The youth unemployment in Cameroon is a national security issue, because there is no Amba fighter who resigned to go to the bush from a job. There is none who sold his shop in the market to go to the bush. There is no Boko Haram fighter who did the same. All of them were recruited in unemployment. And so youth unemployment is today in Cameroon a matter of national security. And even those young people coming back from Panama, it's all, the causes are youth unemployment. Very few people give up decent jobs to go that way. Okay.
Yes, I want you to I want to have your take too on this. The government is cracking down on non-governmental organization, churches. This is the build up to the elections. Are they doing that as the right thing to do, or they're just doing that for political reason? Your take on that?
You're sitting in the office of an opposition leader of Cameroon, so I cannot be on that side of the equation. What I can simply tell you is that a government has the obligation for rule and order. Yeah. And whether it's the right thing they're doing or not, I can tell you one thing is that if I were in power, I would not be doing it that way.
But it is something to be done in a different way.
The list of associations you just gave are being used by this regime. We're in an autocracy, so they need them, and at times they don't need them. You see? So when they see that they become a problem, they ban them. And when they see that they keep the unemployed singing the whole night, they encourage them. You know, some DO said he closed down 180 churches.
Yes.
Well, I talked to the Minister of Territorial Administration and I told him that, look, it just proves that you are not where you're supposed to be. Because I am Minister of Territorial Administration and my DO closes down 180 churches. He is fired on the spot. Not because he closed them, but because they existed in the first place. Okay? So he is a problem because those churches didn't come in like armed robbers. They hired spaces, they opened, they put lots of music, they sang nice songs, and he was dancing. And now when the tune changes, he goes and closes them. He should tell us why he first opened them in the first place.
Fine. And then your take on this very important one. LGBT, lesbianism, gay, bisexual, and transgender. What is your take on that?
Well, my take on that is just what I would call a distraction. It's a huge distraction. We have 30 million people. 30 million Cameroonians need a future. Okay? And when you see an autocracy like Cameroon's putting LGBT as the main priority up there, either to ban it or not to ban it, whatever they do, when they put it up there, it's just to distract. And guess what? At the end of the day, 30 million Cameroonians are talking about something most of them don't even understand. And instead of talking about the real things, you are sitting in a car going to a condo titi inside potholes and mud, and people are complaining about LGBT. You understand? So that's my point. That's my take with it. Okay? And I refuse to bring down a national debate to things around sexuality and all of that. I refuse to do that just for the simple fact that we have, if we list our emergencies today, we'll need a book the size of a Bible to write them. If we have to list our priorities, we need another Quran to list them all. So they should stop distracting us. Let us do what we have to do. Let us fix our educational system, fix our health system, put money back into the pockets of Cameroonians. Let people start smiling because they are Cameroonians, and let us have a state of law. Let people respect each other. Let it be a place where people can live in harmony with the nature, where people can live in harmony with their neighbors. Let this national unity finally exist. Let us be ruled by the people next to us, that is our mayors, and down to earth, and not by people who have never seen. We just see the pictures, and let all of this happen. That is the priority. Every other thing, football, LGBT, all those are just distractions. When you see a nation failing like Cameroon, where the biggest debate in that nation during a presidential election year is football, just know that that nation has failed. It's at the brink of collapse.
Yes, this last question, because we've taken much of your time. Mr. Chairman, we know you are always on the road. When you meet some of the Cameroonians diaspora, some who are actually foiling the conflict in the Northwest and Southwest, what do you tell them when you meet them? You are always on the road. You are out there in the US, the UK, Germany, and everything. This one is a very important point. What do you tell them?
Well, somebody once wrote on social media that the most complicated people to convince CPDM militants and pro-Ambazonia diasporans. So I've gone through that. So first of all, to tell somebody something, you must have a dialogue and not a monologue. Cool. So it's extremely important to first break the ice and talk. Some of us who have lost lots of family members in that war need a lot of energy to break that ice, because when in front of you, you have the guy whose money or the woman whose money was used to kill your brother. You know, you need a lot of energy not to come out of your concentration to talk. But we've learned quite a lot. And I can say that at the beginning, there was a lot of ideology with those who were behind the secession. And of recent, I see that it has shifted more to a war economy. And as a matter of fact, I asked the question that what I don't understand is that you people want an independent Ambazonia. Those in government are called CPDM. The CPDM manages the military, they manage everything that is working against you guys. I would have imagined that your target would be the CPDM. Good. It's not that I'm sending you that way, but I am flabbergasted by the fact that your target is the SDF. I'm flabbergasted by the fact that your target is the Catholic Church. I mean, I don't know where it all started. And it's at that time that I started learning things that I took for granted. For instance, during the first mandate of Trump, I guess it was, the ICE, or something like that, I'm not a specialist, started refusing asylum seekers because many of them positioned themselves as being of the opposition, and of course thousands and thousands find themselves in the US and UK and elsewhere on the basis of having been members of the SDF. And that's another paradox, that you are in asylum on the basis of the fact that you are a member of the SDF and you fight the SDF. So, but we understood what happened. What happened is that at one point, those governments started saying that, but you cannot say that you are persecuted, whereas you have MPs and mayors.
Good.
And that's why they started saying, you guys should get out of the councils. We innocently believed that they were doing this because of the cause.
Good.
That you should get out of the parliament in Yaoundé and create your parliament in Buea. Little did we know that it was because they wanted to have one more proof on their files that, okay, these guys, they can't deal with it, and they've all walked out, you know. So, but what is important for me is that it is the love of home, putting all those in the economic sector of that, the war economy aside. It is the love of home that actually brought us to this war. And it is because of that love that we need to fix this war and come back to peace. Because the day I mentioned abroad that right now you have issues with lists of people at the airports. At one time, you may even have issues with list of dead bodies, because there is no reason. I don't wish this, but in absolute matters, there is no reason that Mr. Joshua Osih is on a no entry list at the airport in Douala and Yaoundé, but his corpse can come in. And the day we're having a drink, we're 4 or 5. The day I said that, there were 2 staunch Ambazonians sitting there. They said, "Don't say that." They were like, if they say that we're dead, And that's where you see that the love for the country is deep.
Good.
And that is why all of this is going on. So fundamentally, what does this mean? It means that they want to solve the mismanagement and bad leadership of this country in a whole different way than what we want. But we are all pushed by the same motive, that Cameroon cannot continue the way it is today. We want a strong Cameroon because we believe in the future of Africa, and dividing Cameroon will not bring anything. What we want is to unite the entire Africa. That's why we are Pan-Africanists. And they believe that going back to pre-61 dispensations is what is necessary for their homeland to come back to what they feel it should be. And I underline feel because we have a lot of talk. And unfortunately, I have a lot of historians as friends. And when you talk with nostalgia about what the former Southern Cameroons was, people bring up excellent stories. Only those stories were not or can difficultly be applicable today.
In this context, right?
People fail to understand that the Tico airport as it is, with all what the Tico people have built around the airport, cannot take anything more than a 12-seater twin otter as an aircraft. You understand? People fail to consider that the Yoke power plant will probably, with a lot of difficulty, be able to give electricity to Buyuka. Because when Yoke existed, it was for the whites. How many were they? It was transporting electricity to whites and to the offices. You understand? So all those things have to be taken into consideration as well. I'm not saying that we were not well off, but the nostalgia builds a story that doesn't reflect the reality. And we need to revisit that as well. But fundamentally, we come from two different political cultures. And I think that we have a duty as Anglophones to blend in our genuine, excellent political culture that we have from the southern Cameroons into the rest of Cameroon, to make the entire Cameroon a good nation. And that's why I'm a candidate for the elections of 2025.
It was a pleasure talking to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Honestly, I like talking honestly.